started last week. Sure, there'll be another poll as Donald Trump is out campaigning, may show him higher in the polls again for a week or two. And then it will turn. And those people will flee like rats from a boat sinking. They will flee Donald Trump, pretend they never knew Donald Trump. Not me. I am running for President of the United States on serious issues which none of them will even talk about. I am running for President of the United States on like 5 giant issues. One, they told me I couldn't talk about, Social Security. Go to stevelaffey.com and look at the fact that the older people in this country have taken too much from the younger people. The younger people who are 40 and under will never get Social Security. My plan, which is really not even my plan, it comes from Larry Kotlikoff, my economic advisor at Boston University. And so go read the plan. Second, inflation in this country is out of control, and it's out of control because of the amount of debt that we have. It's out of control because the Federal Reserve has printed too much money. We know this. People over here would know that inflation comes from too much money. It doesn't come from Ukraine. It doesn't come from supply. My background, from Harvard Business School to helping run a financial firm to teaching the top finance course at the University of Rhode Island to single-handedly turning around a city from financial bankruptcy, this is what I do. The other candidates, they have no idea what I'm talking about. These things have to change. The corruption in this country. We think we don't have corruption? You look at 2020 and you look at that Paycheck Protection Program and ask yourself, did I get any of that? I know law firms that got $56,000 a partner. And what did you get, a check for $1,400? What did you get if you make $75,000? You got $4,000 of added energy costs the last 2 years. You got hosed. That's why people in the middle class, since the 70s, slowly but surely, but the last couple of years have been destroyed. Been destroyed by the political elites. The people that I actually know have done this, and I'm not part of it. I'm running on serious issues to fix the country. Look at our schools. Listen, if we had $31 trillion of debt, and we had great public schools, and the road I just rode in on was totally paved, right? And the infrastructure of this country was doing well, and we could fix our own bridges instead of calling China, we'd be like, all right, we got $31 trillion of debt, but we got a really good place. We have nothing to show for it, except really rich people, a middle class that's been destroyed, the one I come from. And believe me, I know. My father was a tool maker. I've got an older brother who died early on of AIDS. My other brother locked up in a mental institution for many years. I've dealt with really serious issues in my life. I've got 6 children. This one over here is at college. This one over here has suffered through 8 years of cancer, stage 4 neuroblastoma cancer. I know how people suffer with health costs, and I know how to fix it. And so I'm in this race since February 1st, the first person to take on Donald Trump. And this last 4 days, I have been really angry. I've been angry about the reaction of my party to a number of things. One, in front of 60 judges, President Trump and other people like him are still trying to overturn the 2020 election instead of looking forward. Hey, Nixon didn't do that in 60, right? He moved forward. We now have seen a civil case in New York charging the president with wrongdoing. Okay, people could say, well, that's a New York City judge. But convicted of sexual assault in a trial jury is too much. I don't come from that sort of lane of behavior. And the lane of behavior and the discussions that go on with President Trump have to stop for my party to return to some sense of normalcy. But what happened the other day, and I've read the indictment, I've seen the videos, I've watched what he did with this information, and let me tell you all something. If you're a sergeant, and I know a sergeant, he's standing right there, a guy who enlisted in the Navy, who handled secret documents, he told me what would happen to him if he even took it to the bathroom in his pocket. They come and grab you and take you to the brig. Today, in Florida, there's a lieutenant colonel who's spending 3 years in prison because he took secret documents and took them home. He didn't give them to the Russians, he just took them home. 3 years. What did Petraeus get? He got probation and a fine, high-ranking general. Now we've got 3 individuals who have taken stuff home, but in the case of Donald Trump, the former president, he spent a year and a half fighting it. He spent time telling people how great it was that he had it, and this is why he's going to go to court. And this is why my party has to say enough is enough. Enough is enough now and move on. But the other candidates, they won't do it. And I'm disgusted with them. Not Asa Hutchinson. Not even Chris Christie, who said some things. But the other ones who either worked for him. By the way, think of Mike Pence today. Mike Pence not only had secret documents at his house and gave them back, but for 4 years did the president's bidding on everything and only seemingly had a problem with one day. And he's running for president. Would you do that? That makes no sense at all. So that's where we are today, folks. I wanted to go over, I got one thing I thought I'd share with you. And it's some of the statements of how other candidates are reacting to the federal indictment. One of them, here's Ron DeSantis again. Quote, "The weaponization of federal law enforcement represents a mortal threat to society." The man went to Harvard Law School. What is he talking about? Why would it be weaponized? There are videotapes of the president illegally taking top secret documents to his house in Mar-a-Lago and stonewalling federal investigators for a year and a half. They're in his bathroom, by the way. Is that a little too much? But that's what narcissists do. And listen, it'd be one thing if he had been a narcissist president for 4 years and we just kind of put up with it and okay, whatever. You got to have a big ego to run for president anyway. But the fact that if you notice what narcissists do, remember when President Trump had people in from the oil companies into his office and they all had to clap for him. It reminds you of Stalin. What a great job you're doing, Mr. President. Over and over. Who does he hang around with? I'm hanging around with my high school friends. Who does he hang around with? Really important people. Who does he cite? Really important people who come to the White House. This is narcissism. This is his problem. We can pray for him about that. But what's happening in our country where people now think, and here's the real problem, younger people are beginning to believe this kind of behavior is actually okay. It is not. It is not okay to look a 31-year-old lady who hasn't spit on you, who just interrupts you, and say you're nasty. It's not, it wouldn't be okay with my father. And this is what has to return to the Republican Party and to our country. Civil discourse. If you go home tonight, watch the Kennedy-Nixon debate. In fact, watch any debate before 2016. Watch any debate. Even watch the 2011 debate with Herman Cain, who was my friend, in the debate. You will never see this kind of stuff. It ended. And it has to go back to people respecting each other's views and doing what's right for the country and running on issues like I am, not trying to gain sycophants votes. And with that, I don't know if you have any questions or anything I've left out, but go ahead.
If you could echo your calls again.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the indictment of Trump? What do you think should happen? If you could just just tell me how you feel about the whole thing with the Trump situation.
The former president of the United States, President Trump, has made a complete mockery of this election process. I unequivocally call for him to get out of the race and do it with some grace while he can. Maybe he can't now, because what he said in Georgia yesterday again, and the email I got from him this morning that went to spam, is that it's a complete hoax, right? And he's saying things that shouldn't be said. Listen, I'm a Republican, but he's saying that Democrats really only exist to encourage murderers, who quote unquote prowl the streets, right? The whistle blowing on this stuff has to stop. It started in 2015 and 2016. It's never stopped. He has to get out of the race and get on and defend himself in the case, in the court. Now it has to happen. Do you have any questions you want to ask? You sure? You got the LSU Tigers over here. I love the Tigers. By the way, I lived in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. The summer of 1985, I worked for a guy named E.J. Uso, my summer at business school. You won't know him unless you went to the business school at LSU and walked in. It's called the E.J. Uso School of Business. He was the greatest guy, big, heavy, 400-pound man. I ate 20 meals. I gained 10 pounds over the summer. It will, by the way. I did a radio show down there. I said, if I come down, I went out into the bayous and tried to catch crawdads with my buddy Smith. I loved it. That was the greatest time. And you know what? My favorite thing was Barks root beer. It was only in the South. I had never heard of it. It's nationwide now. And it's called Barks. And I thought it was the greatest marketing thing I ever saw. It says something like, it's good. Like, how simple is that? Barks root beer. It's good. Anyway, good to see you. Anybody else? What about you? You're from Canada? I just saw Slovakians. What city are you from? Oh, well, God bless. Thanks for coming. Enjoy the day. Go ahead, sir. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, not reduce it. No. Let me tell you the policy. Social Security, great question. So in 1983 in college, I wrote a paper on Social Security about how the returns for people retiring like you were going to be so abysmal that it should have been changed. So I've been thinking about this for years and years. My policy is really Larry Kotlikoff. Look up Larry Kotlikoff. It's a hard name to remember probably. He's the world-renowned expert over at BU on Social Security. If you're in Social Security, my plan, you keep it. Nothing happens to you. If you're 20, maybe you over there, you're going to get in a whole new program. We're going to invest it for 45 years in stocks, bonds, real estate, not with Charles Schwab, not with Merrill Lynch. You can't touch it, but you own it. You get married, maybe you're already married, at 30. You get divorced at 40, hopefully not. You split what you put in. You die along the way, hopefully not. Your heirs get it. But you get to be in your early 60s, and we stop buying either annuities or treasury adjusted securities, and by the time you get to be, say, 70, we now have a big annuity check for you forever. Way more money. The check, I'm not asking you what you get, but they're telling me I'm going to get X. If I had been doing this for 40 years, it'd be 5 times X, 10 times X. Let me just tell you one other thing for the young people listening. The only way you get Social Security now from the clowns in Washington is that it says when you get to be 40, it says, well, you're going to get $2,000 a month if you wait till full retirement, let's say. Let's say it says, the letter you get from Social Security. You're going to get the $2,000. It's just going to be $200 after they inflate away all these problems. That's what's about to happen. So here's the other thing about it. Ron DeSantis, I won't touch it. Donald Trump, I won't touch it. It's $65 trillion in arrears. Is that okay? It is not okay with me. It needs to be changed, it needs to be fixed, and what happens is, unfortunately, you pass away one day. I pass away. We're left with her, and it's fully funded 100%. That's one of the greatest things we can do for this country is take this unfunded liability from 65 trillion to 0. But go ahead. But you're not going to get touched. If you're in the system, you get what you get. Yes, Social Security. It'd be totally Social Security. It's not an IRA. It's not a 401k. It's Social Security. We're not getting rid of it. But we start with people who are 20, and I could get more complicated about it. But the simple thing is that you're 60-something, I guess. All right. You're going to get what we told you you're going to get. Nothing happens to you. I'm sorry you're not 40 years younger, and I'm not 40 years younger because they're going to get a lot more. So the 20-year-old gets into a new program. You take any 40-year program, by the way, no ESG investing, no blah, blah, blah. It's in a lockbox. I know you don't like that term. I'm just saying, I'm joking with you. It's never was put in a lockbox. It's put into a computer box, and it gets invested properly with ETFs all around the world, and New Zealand land, and tiny little bit, VTI the symbol. Any 40-year period, people are going to get more, a lot more. And that's how we take, slowly, the unfunded liability down. No, the whole debt we have is totally different. The $31 trillion of which we publicly borrow 24 trillion, that's a whole different story. We really have almost $200 trillion of debt, and we're never going to pay it back unless we do something with Social Security and then take on other programs also. But when it comes to the debt, we borrow about $24 trillion. So just a little bit on that, while I got you listening. The debt, Donald Trump created, and his people, $8 trillion of debt in 4 years. We as conservatives, I'm talking about myself, we went after Obama for $8 trillion in 8 years and said nothing about $8 trillion in 4 years. So I have a whole plan to deal with that. That's about the Fed and inflation and what we need to do. I won't bore you with it today, but yes, it's a whole different program to take on our debt. It's a very difficult program because here's the real problem. The Fed, knowingly, to make rich people really richer, kept rates so low for so long that we borrowed interest in the debt about 6 years ago, $250 billion, and in a $4 trillion budget back then. That's okay. It seems okay. But now, the average borrowing power of America, borrowing rates of America over the last 35 years is 6.5%. Well, now we're at 24 trillion of borrowing. Where are we going to get the 1.4 trillion from? Extra. We're not. That's the problem in America today, and that's why young people like you have been totally hosed by older people like me. Not me personally, I've been fighting about this for a long time. But I'm Steve Laffey, I'm SteveLaffey.com. That's why I'm running. My background is unique. I'm a financial expert, went to Harvard Business School, helped run a financial firm, Cranston, Rhode Island went bankrupt, I went home, became the mayor, turned it around financially, taught the top finance course. Have you heard the word finance enough? Taught the top finance course at the University of Rhode Island for 3.5 years while I was mayor. I know what I'm talking about. I come from the lower middle class, family of 5, I've got 6 children. I know what has to happen. And that's why I'm running. Because the other people running will never say what I just said. They will never tell you the truth about the debt. They don't have a website that says anything about it. They have a website that says, give me money. Go to SteveLaffey.com, you get a card from me later, and you can watch 100 hours. I don't suggest you watch 100 hours of me talking. This is enough. But you can watch 100 hours of me saying stuff about every one of these topics, and it's a hard message for people to hear sometimes. But the crisis for America is here now. When I announced February 1st, what did I say? You can watch it. We're having a financial crisis now. 4 weeks later, SVB Bank goes broke. And what do people do about it? They insure all the really rich depositors. They give them all the money back. You're insured for $250,000 a deposit. Let me ask you a question. Your house burns down, it's a $500,000 house. Do you get $1 million? You get $500,000. The people at Roku had $500 million in that bank, they got all $500 million. They should have gotten what the old way was, a receivable from the Fed for what the bank would actually get for like $400 million. They could go to the bank and get that, and they would have lost $100 million. But that's not what happens today. It's not what happened in '08 with the airlines. They all got bailed out. You didn't, they did. The CEOs of large banks got bailed out in '08. And the banks got bailed out again. And they're bailing them out now. And the average person is totally screwed. That's what's happening, and that's why I'm running to stop it. And I'm a unique individual because I have this vast background, but I still am here for one reason, to restore the middle class that's been destroyed for the last 30 years. Destroyed. You go down to any one of these neighborhoods or houses that were built in 1950s, and you see houses with one driveway because one person stayed home and one person went to work, and that kid went to college that they had, the 2 kids, and that was the American dream. Destroyed where both people are working, latchkey kids, because what's happened with China and imports. This is stuff I've been talking about Since 2005 publicly, I wrote a book called Primary Mistake, Penguin Books. I made a movie, Fixing America. It's still up at Amazon. This is what I do, this is what I know, and this is what we're going to do to fix this country. And it's just getting going now. Anyway, I thank you for your time.